In a world where legends rise and fall with every punch, where the roar of the crowd fades, but the stories live on. This is where those stories are told. This is Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. From the blood, the sweat, and the glory, to the controversies, comebacks, and knockouts, we go behind the ring, no fluff, no hype, and definitely no BS. Just the truth behind the fight game. And we've been doing it for over 2 decades. A podcast pioneer, now a Hall of Famer.
Great. What's that ego gonna be like?
And next, the comeback kid.
Wait, isn't he like 90 or something?
Shut up, he'll hear you. The reigning, defending, undisputed, heavyweight champion of boxing broadcasting. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. And it's on now.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this show. Just visit Amazon and search Tom Molyneux or me. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by Classic Boats. Looking for a top quality classic boat or a luxury boat? Just check out classicboats.co. That's classicboats.co. Busy show scheduled for you today. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about 2 big fights. I usually wait until the weekend, the show before the fight, but I want to start. One of the fights is next week's fight. That's the one I'm beating around the bush about, Zayas against Boots. And the other big fight I'm going to talk about a little bit will hopefully be set pretty soon, and that's Bam Rodriguez going up against Naoya Inoue. And I got some boxing news to talk about and a lot more. We're scheduled to have Iceman John Scully join us. So I'm looking forward to speaking with him. I'm going to be responding today to any comments that any of you that are watching or listening live make in the chat room. Any questions, comments, concerns, as long as I see it. It depends how many people are in there, but I will not only respond to it, I'll post it on the show. So if you're watching or listening and have something you want to comment about, come on into the chat room. I got a Zuffa boxing update. I want to talk a little about the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame event we did. And if you were waiting for this show to start, I put the set that we did the show on up on the front page. So I'll be talking about that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about that right now because we had. So any of you that watched that, we did have some technical difficulties as far as the streaming portion, but John Muscunas of LDL TV did a fantastic job. There was 6 cameras set up, and he had all kinds of backup audio, and he was able to get the show in its entirety in the quality that he filmed it on, and that's going to be posted pretty soon. But what an event we had. If you tuned into this show before we went on, I posted a picture of the set. It was great. I mean, John from LDL TV had a red carpet for the guests to come up. We had banners up there. It was on a stage. But the best part was that it was done in front of a live audience. And at one point, there were a couple hundred people in there while we were doing the interviews. And the interviews were not, I'll be truthful, the interviews weren't preset in terms of times or even who they were. And as they were coming in from the cocktail party, the meet and greet that was taking place to kick off the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend, and it turned out to be great. And I'll tell you something. it should be a reminder to you to make sure you make your plans now to attend next year's Florida Boxing Hall of Fame weekend. It's going to be in June, and we're going to be doing the show again. And it was pretty cool, pretty cool. But anyway, let's talk about the big fight that took place this past weekend. Bam Rodriguez wins his third division world championship when he stopped Antonio Vargas in the sixth round. It was officially 1 minute and 15 seconds of the sixth round. And Bam Rodriguez improves now to 24-0, 17 knockouts. And Vargas loses only for the second time in his career. 19 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, with 11 of his wins coming by knockout. And remember, Antonio Vargas was the champion in this fight. My man John is in the chat room now, giving me, hey, listen, flattery will get you everywhere, John. You know that. But anyway, this fight, if you didn't see it, let me just say this. Bam Rodriguez is an exceptional fighter. I've come to realize that he's a generational talent. And I'm not so sure why he doesn't get the credit he deserves. In some circles, people talk about him, and he is ranked high. But, I noticed that there was a lot of criticism about him, and the fight I'm going to want to talk about here in a few minutes. And that, of course, is the dream fight between Bam Rodriguez and Inoue. And people are saying that Inoue is, so much more skilled. The thing about Bam Rodriguez is that he does things pretty subtly in terms of his movement, and he's got such pop in his hands, in his punches. The thing is, and I will admit, this fight against Vargas kind of exposed his upper defense a little bit. Vargas was getting in. He was landing some punches. You could tell by Bam Rodriguez's face. It was, puffed up. And the truth of the matter is that he's taken punches before. So the general consensus is that Inoue punches much harder than a Vargas. And if Vargas got in, then Inoue will. So let's talk about these two fighters, Inoue and Bam Rodriguez. And of course, Inoue, he's regarded as one of the top pound-for-pound fighters. And John's telling me I might have a technical issue here, and I'm going to have to check on that right now. And I apologize if he's correct. He's telling me that I'm hearing my sound in the mic. So, but anyway, we'll keep rolling here as we do. But anyway, Inoue is a quality fighter, known for his basically a pound for pound fighter, and he's known for his power and his boxing ability. He's got a record of 33 wins, no losses, 27 of his wins coming by knockout. He has been down. Okay, he gets up and he wins because he's undefeated. And he's got some great boxing skill. He too has some fantastic footwork. He knows how to set up his opponents. They don't call him the monster for nothing. He's just a phenom. Some of his wins that he's had, he's had some good wins, but the names that pop out to me, he won decisions against in his last fight against Nakatani, which was a huge fight. Also, the fight before that against David Picasso, both top-rated fighters in his weight division. He stopped Louis Neary. He stopped Stevie Fulton. He stopped Paul Butler. He stopped Nonito Donaire. He stopped Jason Maloney. And he also fought Naoya twice, and he did go to distance the first time. But those are some quality fighters, and Inoue has seemingly had no trouble with them. And when he steps in the ring with Jesse Rodriguez, Bam is no slouch either. He's an undefeated fighter. We were just talking about it. His noted wins, in my opinion, Antonio Vargas in his last fight, of course, winning his third title. But he also has wins over Fernando Martinez, Pedro Guerrero, Juan Francisco Estrada, a top fighter. Sonny Edwards handed Sonny Edwards his first loss. Carlos Cudras. I mean, both of these fighters have fought their way to stardom, so to speak. They have not been handed titles. Here's the differences. Bam Rodriguez is a southpaw. They're about the same height. They have the same exact reach. Bam Rodriguez is 26 years old, 7 years younger than Inoue. Something that doesn't pop out, realistically. People. I don't think of it as old because I'm so old. But the truth of the matter is for those smaller fighters. The thing is, he hasn't really been hurt or beat up. I think Jesse Rodriguez has actually taken more punches than Inoue, at least more powerful punches. But being a southpaw and being able to pivot and being able to sneak in those punches against Inoue, he's, as far as the knockout power, you would think that it's equal, but truthfully, Inoue possesses 10% more over the whole body of work, but he's also got 9 more fights than Jesse Rodriguez. So how do I think this fight would go? Well, that's hard to say, but at this stage in the game, what I will say is that I think it's a potential fight that Inoue ages in the ring before our eyes. Bam Rodriguez is a pressure fighter. He comes in shape. He's going to land. The question is can he avoid Inoue's punches and Inoue's jab and his speed, all those attributes that makes Inoue a top pound for pound fighter. But you guys hear me promote this book all the time. It's not a book, it's an essay. You hear me talk about this essay all the time, but it speaks volumes. It was an essay written by Jack London. It's called A Piece of Steak. If you've never read it and you would like to know what all my hoopla is about, drop me an email, Billy@talkinboxing, TalkinBoxing.com, and I'll send you a copy. I'll email you a copy. It's a short, I think it's 15-page essay or something. But the whole gist is youth versus age. Now, we don't have a fighter in Inoue who's already an old fighter. We have a fighter that seemingly is in his prime, but he's also at 33 years old in those smaller weight classes. Plus, he's been fairly busy. He's going to age at some point quickly in the ring, either in the ring, or he's going to walk away when he realizes it during his workouts and sparring and what have you. But because of that, and because of that difference in age, I gotta tell you that I'm right now. My pick is going to be Bam Rodriguez. I think the southpaw aspect and the youth aspect and the way he can pivot and sneak in punches, I think he's going to catch Inoue and squeak out, and his work rate is so high. I think he's going to squeak out a win. Does he knock Inoue out? He could knock him out. Inoue probably has more of a shot at stopping Bam Rodriguez with accumulation power shots that Bam Rodriguez, would all of a sudden succumb to. But my early pick, I'm picking Bam Rodriguez. So that's my reason, and I'm sticking with it. We'll see. I'm sticking with it today. We'll see if I change my thought process at all as we move forward. And speaking of moving forward, I don't know if you have heard, but Floyd Mayweather, he's in trouble again. The problem with Floyd Mayweather is, especially now that we're starting to follow the bouncing ball. He just was charged with felony charges to Clark County, which is in Nevada. They slapped him with 2 felony charges, including theft of property valued over $100,000 and passing a check with the intent to defraud. Oh, did I mention that the whole reason is he wrote a bad check for a piece of jewelry? It was a rare watch, and the owners, this is even the best part. The owners were trying to protect them in a way. They were trying to keep it quiet, and they were quietly for a year trying to collect their money, and Floyd wouldn't do it. So now, he had some attorneys appear for him. He had to appear in court on Monday. So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously they're going to cut a deal, but the maximum sentence is actually over 20 years in jail. I doubt Floyd will see jail time for that unless some of the other things mount. I mean, we all know and have heard that he owes the feds, the IRS, $7 million, and unless he's cut some kind of a deal aside from fighting these fights that are coming up, he's also incurring penalties and interest. Trust me, I know. He also lost a case where he owes $1 million in back child support, plus lawsuits over apartment rentals in Manhattan and jet airlines and airplane rentals and all this stuff. I love it, to tell you the truth, because he flaunts all this persona. I mean, Money Mayweather, right? He flaunts it, and he's choked himself out. He's basically choked himself out, And ironically enough, this whole bad check thing to buy a watch. I mean, look, I don't care if you're smart or as stupid as he is. You got to know when you're starting to get low. I mean, refrain. I mean, I know he's a gambler, but what's he addicted to buying jewelry and trying? Well, then again, he likes to put on a facade. So anyway, good luck, Floyd. He's fighting in a couple of weeks. I'm not even going to watch it. It's some kind of way for him to make some money. But in any event, did you hear a rumor about Andy Ruiz? Remember Andy Ruiz, who's a former world champion? He's the guy that beat Anthony Joshua. And then Anthony Joshua came back and got his titles back. He hasn't fought in a while. As a matter of fact, his last fight was in 2024 when he fought Jarrell Miller, which ended in a draw. So Andy Ruiz hasn't fought in a while. Huey Fury is who he's rumored to fight, and Huey hasn't fought in a while since 2019. I'm sorry, he's won his last 8 fights since 2019. He did have a little time out as well, but obviously not quite as long. His record is 31-3, with 18 of his wins coming by knockout. And Andy Ruiz, 35-2-1 with 22 knockouts, surprisingly fast for for a big man. I kind of like the fight. I mean, Andy Ruiz was on social media calling out everybody and their brother. But anyway, some Zuffa boxing news that I'd like to talk about, if you will. They're coming to Madison Square Garden in New York City. John is saying all of it being BS money, mismanagement, gambling, bad checks, private jets. Yeah, well, he loses the gambling more than he admits. The bad check that's finally coming to a head with this with these charges, and the private jets. Well, he's cool, right? He's cool. He's a cool guy. He owes them too. But Zuffa Boxing coming to Madison Square Garden on July 26th. And he's basically having two main events. Edgar Berlanga is returning to the ring, and he's fighting Stephen Big Bang Butler, who is trained by Iceman Scully. So when Scully comes on, I'm definitely going to be talking to him about that. And the other one is Richardson Hitchens. He's taking on Ricardo Salas. That's Zuffa Boxing on July 26th. Two, not one, but two main events. They're calling it a double main event. And another reason why I keep saying that Zuffa Boxing is going to be, it will succeed in taking over boxing, I think, or at least controlling it to a degree. And that is Zuffa Boxing just signed Nasheed Smith, and he goes by Nasheed Sugarsheed Smith. He's a light heavyweight, undefeated, 10-0 with 7 knockouts. Now, he's big in Washington, D.C. area. But here's my point. It's yet another guy that's got, 15 or less fights, either undefeated or once or twice beaten, that Zuffa is signing. And we're going to see these guys. We're going to be seeing these guys fighting each other. The argument, and, I've talked to many people. I was actually, talking to a trainer, Aaron Snewell, at the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, and he was all pro, sanctioning bodies, and didn't think Zuffa was going to do it. And he starts giving me all the reasons in his opinion, and basically I ended up saying to him, "Yeah, you just proved my point." And this is the reason. Look at this. Here we're going to have a couple of younger fighters like Sugarsheed, and he's 25 years old. Like I said, 10-0. And when we see him fight on a card, he's going to be fighting against another young fighter. And as we watch these fights, obviously talented fighters fighting more talented fighters, rather than a talented fighter fighting a guy that doesn't stand a chance in hell to win. We're going to be treated to better quality fights. But the best part that comes out of this is that the winners that keep progressing are going to be real fighters. They're going to, when they fight for a title, they're going to be there for a while. So that's what I keep telling you guys is going to be the benefit of Zuffa Boxing. The benefit of Zuffa Boxing will be that we will get to see young fighters being tested much earlier. Just look at the event that's taking place on July 25th. I mean, Berlanga, here's a guy that many people thought would give Canelo a run for his money. It didn't work out for him, but he's fighting Stephen Butler. Stephen Butler is a proven commodity. He's had his ups and downs, but when he's on, he's a tough out. This is a good fight. That's a good matchup. That's a 50-50 fight. And the same thing with Ricardo Salas going up against Hitchens. And those are the co-main events. So, listen, he's proving that he, meaning Dana White and Zuffa Boxing, in my humble opinion, they're proving that they are going to continue to give us quality fights. And here's the best part, man, is Dana White getting under the tail feathers of all the other promoters. He's got a cease and desist thing going on with Golden Boy over Ryan Garcia. Now, people are going to say, well, he's meddling, he's doing this, he's doing that. Listen, boxing, one of the biggest problems with the sport of boxing over the years has been, I guess, no lack of way of describing it, but the lack of loyalty between fighters and managers, or fighters and promoters, or promoters and fighters, and managers and fighters. I mean, there's not much loyalty. There's a few fighters and teams that have stayed together and showed their loyalty to each other, but most of the time, it's about the money. And when you're talking about it's about the money, contracts are only as good as they can be. And in the worst case, there's a monetary loss. And if it's about the money, you pay off the contract and you walk away. What's happening here with Golden Boy about Ryan Garcia, that's because Ryan Garcia is in the mindset that he's the guy. He doesn't need belts, he doesn't need promoters, and he's right. Okay. Shakur Stevenson is another one. These are guys I keep telling you, they're going to break away and do it. John saying he has Oscar doing clapback videos twice a week as he describes Dana as Fester. Listen, he's Dana White, Uncle Fester. Dana White is definitely getting under their skin, but he's not all. You think Oscar's fired up about Dana White. How about Eddie Hearn? Eddie Hearn, he claims Dana White is not involved with the Anthony Joshua fight, and he's never going to be involved, right? He says this a week ago or so. This was after Dana White's like, I got a surprise for everybody. I'm controlling the Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury fight, which everybody's like, huh? What are you talking about? And he just smiled. He wouldn't give any other info. Well, then, Eddie Hearn comes back with that. And then the most recent thing Eddie Hearn comes out with is the negotiations between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are being held up because of what do you think, boys and girls? Because they're mentioning a contract. They're not being specific with what's in the contract, but there's a contract that's holding up the Anthony Joshua Tyson Fury fight that everybody so much wants. So we'll see what happens. Just remember, both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are fighting fights before they fight each other. So that's taking place. But I'm loving what Zuffa Boxing is doing, both in and out of the ring. My only gripe with Zuffa Boxing at this stage of the game is the fact that they do their events on Sundays. I think that's a mistake. Dana White was quoted recently as bragging about it, saying that they compete with the NFL. They're not going to compete with the NFL. I don't care what Dana White does. Now, my man John here is going to tell me, well, it's all about the eyes. It's all about, Paramount, has more people potentially watching than individual markets of the NFL. I don't know how they score that. If they score, NFL Sunday and you're seeing your game in your market, I'm seeing mine in my market. And do they add up everything and have a total amount? But the bottom line is, I just, regardless of the potential viewers, I just don't see boxing, at least at this stage, competing with the NFL. To be honest with you, I don't see anything able to compete with the NFL. If you want to talk about Major League Baseball and basketball, and hockey, I would say, okay, maybe, you can compete on a Sunday against them. But the reason is they play more often. They're playing several times a week, whereas in the NFL they play once a week. I think it's a mistake. Regardless of how, well and how good the matches are, they're not going to compete with at least the live audience. LDL TV is saying he's going to end up on Saturday nights no matter what he says, not in football season anyway. I think my personal opinion, he's not going to do Saturdays because that's his UFC stuff. But I think he should try to get the deal to do Fridays, Friday night fights, or pick another night, Wednesday night fights, Thursday night fights, whatever. I think he's better off. I really do. Any night but Sundays, especially during football season, and you won't have Mondays during football season either. But any other day, you got 5 more days to choose from. Dana, come on, cut the deal with Paramount. You can, and your viewership, your live viewership, will be much better. At the end of the day, he's going to have to maintain a high view rate because they're not just gonna do it for shits and giggles. We got a big fight this in next weekend. There are some fights this weekend, but we got some a big fight next weekend, and that of course is Alexander Zayas going up against Boots Ennis. I want to talk about that fight right now because, Jaron Ennis is a former world welterweight champion. He has fought at the junior middleweight division earlier in his career, but, I just think that they were comfy fights, like, hey, let's not make, him lose, get down to 147 because they were around 148, 149. But he's he's only had one junior middleweight fight, and that was his last fight against Lima, who he destroyed in 1 round. So but Boots, he's an orthodox fighter, 5'10". He's got a 74-inch reach. He's 28 years old, 89% knockout ratio. The computer has him ranked at number 1. The WBA has him at number 1. Both in the junior middleweight division already. He's not rated by the WBC, the WBO, or the IBF. And the Ring has him at number 5, and ESPN has him at number 3. He's got some decent wins. His last fight was against Lima. His only junior middleweight fight. He did beat David Avesian. Forget it. I won't even try it. David A. He beat an old Thomas Delorme. He beat Sergey Lipitz, which he had been in some tough fights. He beat an old Chris Van Herden. He's dominated in his fights. 31 of his 35 wins came by knockout. He's a quality fighter. A lot of people have him ranked pretty high. My thought on him is that he's looked really, really good against the opposition that he's faced. I don't think he's faced any top opposition. He's going to be facing top opposition when he steps in the ring with Alexander Zayas. Zayas is currently the WBO World Junior Middleweight Champion. Ironically enough, the computer ranks him behind Boots at number 4. The Ring has him ranked at number 4, and like I told you, Boots is ranked at number 5. But ESPN has Boots at number 3 and has Zayas at number 4. It tells us that on paper, this is a fantastic matchup. Zayas is 23 years old, 5 years younger than Boots. He too is 5'10", and he too has a 74-inch reach. He's been fighting comfortably at junior middleweight since 2021. So he's got 5 years under his belt at this weight. To me, he looks bigger. than Boots. Boots always seemed to be much bigger than his opponents, and he's certainly not bigger than Zayas. Physically, they're the same size, but I think Zayas might be more into that weight, grew into that weight, and has been at that weight for a longer period of time than Boots. Now, when you look at Zayas's record, really his last eight fights in a row were all against really good opposition. His last fight against Abbas Bararu, he won a close decision there. He also won a decision over Jorge Perez, which he's a good fighter. He stopped Saul Spoomer. He won a decision over Damian Socha, over Patrick Teixeira, over Jorge Fortia. He knocked out Roberto Venezuela Jr., and he also won a decision against Ronald Cruz. All names that were top fighters, and this is only going back the last 3 years, less than 3 years. So those are his last 8 fights. The way I see this fight going, to be honest with you, Boots Ennis is going to be tested big time in this fight. I think, a lot of the people that I see talking about this fight are acting like, Boots is going to come in there and just, make quick work of Zayas. And, he could. I mean, listen, the way he's been, let's say this, the level of his opposition, Boots' opposition that he's faced, to this point, he has been doing just that. He's been going in and destroying them. Okay. Whether he wins by knockout or, by decision, he's controlled his fights. And, I can understand people looking at that, but here's where the level of opposition comes into play. And this is why, again, jumping back to Zuffa, why I feel it's going to be so successful and good for boxing. If it's not successful, it's going to be for other reasons, but not because it's not for the good of the sport of boxing. I get these people telling me, oh no, the fighters won't get a chance to make more money because they won't be fighting for titles. I don't understand that. Because if they're fighting, if they're demanding money, and they're selling tickets and all of this, everybody makes out. The fighters will make more money. If they don't, they won't be with Zuffa very long. They'll retire and then come back or something. The money is going to be there. I think that the money is going to be what coaxes a lot of these fighters today to fight under the Zuffa banner, like Ryan Garcia, like Shakur Stevenson. That's what I believe. And I even still think Usyk is going to fight under the banner. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a Deontay Wilder, fight, at least a fight under the banner. It's going to happen. I also think Canelo is going to end up doing it, So anyway, back to the Boots and Zayas fight. I just don't think that Boots has fought the tougher opposition. But here's the thing. Skill sets are skill set. I just don't think he's going to blow away Zayas. Now, when you talk about Zayas, yes, he's more of a boxer, which kind of plays into Boots' hands, in my opinion. But Zayas kind of looks so much physically stronger than Boots Ennis. You can't judge how a fighter is going to be by how they look in training and stuff. You can't. But I'll tell you something. The last fighter that I saw, and because I normally don't pay much attention to the condition that they're in, during training camps and stuff. I normally don't, because I don't like to get caught up in the hoopla. But I couldn't help but notice Ryan Garcia in his last fight, how great he looked in training and his preparation. And I'm seeing that with Zayas. I'm seeing the same thing with Zayas. I'm not seeing anything with Boots. I'm not saying he's not working hard and he's not looking good. I'm not saying that at all. But I just think that he's going to be in a tough battle. And my prediction, which is not my official prediction, because that's going to take place next week. But right now, my prediction, I think Zayas is going to upset. I believe it's pretty close to even fight gambling wise, but I think Zayas is going to upset a lot of Boots in his fans. Everybody's got this guy on a pedestal, similar to Moses Atuma. Another guy that I do believe possesses the skill set. He just hasn't been tested yet, But anyway, I'm going to jump back to the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame event that I got back from, and we had a really good time. Some of the people, I got to give a shout out to all the volunteers that help make the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame what it is. And I know the International Boxing Hall of Fame just took place this past weekend. But to me, there's no comparison. And the reason is because with the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, all the fighters and all the inductees and other celebrities that show up are accessible. You stay on the grounds, you're going to be eating dinner with them or bumping into them at breakfast or just seeing them on the grounds. And you go up and talk to them and they talk to you. They don't get herded in and out like cattle, like the International Boxing Hall of Fame has grown into. The Florida Boxing Hall of Fame is what the International Boxing Hall of Fame used to be, So it's look, for example, I got to see a guy that I haven't seen in a long time, and we used to do a lot of stuff together in terms of him coming on the show and me promoting his stuff, and that's Lou DiBella of the DiBella Entertainment. Great guy. He's just to give you an update on Lou. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling you what Lou is up to. Lou is up to. He's not. He has no desire at this stage to return to boxing, even though people were talking to him all weekend, trying to beg him to get back into it. And basically, he was pretty honest, saying, "Well, never say never." Basically, you never know. But right now, he's deeply involved with a couple of minor league baseball teams. So congratulations to him. I had a really good time catching up with him, and Nate Campbell was there, and Jerry Cooney was there, and he's what a character. John and I had lunch. Well, John and I were having lunch, and then he popped in and he sat down with us. And he starts teaching the waitress how to box. It was great. It was great stuff. And a lot of people there. So it was cool. And give a shout out to Dalia Duran. And in case the name sounds familiar, yes, she's the daughter of the great Roberto Duran, who wish a happy birthday to. He turned 75. And Dalia is a great person who is the glue that keeps everybody together. And then, of course, Steve Canton and the SJC Boxing Gym, which houses the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame, and Bob Alexander, who does a fantastic job, and everybody else involved. It was great, and really, you should make your plans. It sounds like an infomercial, right? But make your plans to go there. It's really worth it. Great facility. And all that jazz. But we had a good time. And John, yeah. So John is reminding me about the, Scott. So first of all, I was just going to give him some props. He did a fantastic job with the set. And if you haven't seen it yet, it is up there. But we are going to be putting some refined content up so you can really get a good feel of how that set was. It was really cool, and John did a good job. And afterwards, we went and had a drink. So I was at the bar, and earlier, I was having dinner there, and I noticed that they had a brand of scotch that I like, and I'll mention it. It's Pinch. I love it, and I could buy a bottle of that stuff for, I don't know, $60, $65 or whatever. So it's at the bar, right? So I said, oh, good, they got that. So John and I was talking, and I said, hey, John, I'm going to buy the drink. I said, I'm going to buy it. I said, I want you to taste it. He's going, no, I'm a bourbon guy. I don't want scotch. And I forced it on him. I get a little pushy sometimes, I get a little pushy sometimes, especially out at an event. And so John's like, okay, he just wanted to shut me up, right? So we get there, and Cello, my man Cello, and his lovely wife was already at the dinner table, and we decide to sit down with them. And so I said, and I'll give a shout out to Chuck. Chuck Metzger was there as well, who really likes to spend time in jacuzzis and pools without a shirt on. But that's a whole nother story. But anyway, so I get to the table, and John finally says, yeah, okay, I'll have one, right? So I said, hey, Cello, what do you want? He tells me what he wants, and Chuck tells me what he wants, and I go up to the bar, and I go, okay. I ordered what Cello and Chuck wanted, and I said, oh, and I want 2 of those pinch on the rocks. And I'm looking up at the thing, and she said, oh, good. I knew something was up when, she goes and she has to get a ladder to climb up. That's how high, you talk about top shelf, right? She had to use a ladder to get to this fucking bottle of scotch. Then not only that, so you think if somebody's going to steal it, right? So you put it up on the top shelf. It was locked. There was like a glass case, so she unlocks it. She brings it down. She mixes. She pours us 2 of those pinches on the rocks. And I said, I'll square up with you now. She hands me the bill, and the bill was over $170 for 4 drinks, right? So I was like, so I get back to the table, and John tasted it. He liked it. And, I didn't say anything about that, but I was thinking, you know what, maybe I'm just going to have a soda next time, So then John says, after we finished, he says, hey, listen, and he was trying to get the other guy's attention to, buy around. And the other guys were, they didn't need one or whatever. So John says, I'm going to go up and get it. So he comes up and he gets 2 more of the pinches. And he comes back and he looks at me. He goes, what the hell? And he's telling me about the price. He goes, what are they charging? $40 a drink? I go, John, I didn't want to say anything. I tried to stop you, when you left. I said, but I was floored when I got the $170 bill. He's going, oh, Jesus. He says, next time, forget it. I'm drinking. He said, I'll drink a beer next time or whatever. But it just goes to show you, listen, the price shouldn't have been that high. All right. I mean, I could have seen at the most, maybe at that place, because they jack it up, maybe $20 a drink, maybe. I mean, at a normal place, you're probably going to spend, 15, maybe. I don't know. That's why I buy it by the bottle. Yeah. And then John is saying, yeah. And then they were automatically, this was another thing that they did. They automatically, hey, this shouldn't make you guys not want to go to this event, because trust me, it was sold out. They automatically add an 18% tip on there. So you don't notice. So not somebody like, because I was there, I had dinner there, and I added a tip on it. I wasn't reading the fine print, so every time, no wonder why when I walked in there, they all were fighting over who was, because I was adding tips to everything too. But in any event, it was a great time. And like I said, John from LDL TV did a fantastic job with the set and fixing our whole setup there, which we are going to post. I am going to. We do have the whole show up there now. It's not the version that hopefully will be up soon. But I also am going to break out some of those interviews, because we had some really good ones. Cello was there, of course. Lou DiBella was a classic interview. We actually I'm hoping I get a copy of the other Lou DiBella interview that we did prior to one of the events. But we had Lou DiBella, was really good. Mark Allen Baker, who's going to be on this show, was there. He's a great author. He's got a new book. Actually, he just sent it to me today, so I'll be talking about that. He was on. He was another good one. Of course, Jerry Cooney and Randy Gordon. My man Randy was there. He got inducted this year into the Florida Boxing Hall. He joined the family. China Smith, a guy that I worked with in the past, and it was a really good time. But in any event, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys joining us. Today's show was a little short because there's not much stuff going on. I was still real psyched about the Florida Hall of Fame, and I just look forward to chatting with you guys again next week, because you got to make sure that you tune in next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this.